The great battle with Goliath was over, and the land of Israel was filled with joy. Everywhere, people sang and cheered, celebrating David the shepherd who had saved them. In the palace, King Saul smiled, but inside, his heart trembled. As the songs for David grew louder, a dark shadow of jealousy crept into his spirit. He looked at David and wondered, what more can he take but my kingdom? But God had a different plan. In that very palace lived Jonathan, King Saul's brave and kind son. Jonathan was a young man with a pure heart who loved truth more than power. When Jonathan met David, after the great victory, his heart was full of joy. He saw not a rival, but a true brother, someone who trusted God just as he did. Jonathan took off his own royal robe and placed it on David's shoulders. He gave David his sword, his bow, and his belt, special gifts of friendship and honor. That day, their hearts became one, and they made a promise before God. Everywhere David went, people loved him. He led King Saul's army with great wisdom and courage, bringing victory after victory. But with each win, Saul's jealousy grew even deeper. Saul's joy turned to fear, and he could not rest at night. Even when David played his beautiful harp music to soothe him, Saul's heart grew darker and darker. One terrible night, rage took over the king. As David played softly, Saul grabbed his spear. With a fierce cry, he hurled it at David. The spear struck the wall, missing David by inches. David fled into the night, his heart heavy with sorrow. He had loved Saul like a father, and now that love had turned to fear, he hid in the open fields, under the sparkling stars, whispering prayers to God. The next morning, Jonathan searched for David and found him. David's eyes were weary, but still kind. "My friend," Jonathan said gently, "why does my father seek to kill you?" "I have done nothing wrong," David said sadly, "but the king's heart has turned against me." Jonathan's eyes filled with tears. "I will find out the truth and warn you," he promised. That day, they made a solemn promise before God, a covenant of friendship that would never be broken. "No matter what happens," Jonathan vowed, "our bond shall stand forever." Jonathan returned to the palace and sat beside his father at supper. King Saul's eyes were restless, searching the room. "Where is the son of Jesse?" he demanded, his voice sharp. Jonathan, with calm courage, replied, "David asked to visit his family in Bethlehem." Saul's anger exploded. He shouted, "As long as David lives, you will never be king." Saul, in his fury, hurled his spear at Jonathan, his own son. Jonathan quickly dodged it, but his heart broke with sorrow. He left the hall, tears in his eyes, knowing his father's heart was consumed by rage. At dawn, Jonathan took his bow and arrows and went to the secret field where David waited. A young servant boy followed, not knowing their hidden plan. Jonathan shot an arrow far beyond a large stone. The boy ran to fetch it. "Is not the arrow beyond you?" Jonathan shouted. These words were a secret message, meaning, "Run, David. It's not safe." The boy returned with the arrow, still unaware of the hidden meaning. Jonathan sent him back to the palace. Then, when the field was quiet again, David stepped out from the shadows. They looked at each other. Two friends bound by deep love and shared sorrow. No words were needed, for tears spoke for them both. Jonathan said, "Go in peace. The Lord will be between you and me, and between our children forever." David nodded, May God watch over you, my brother." David walked into the vast wilderness. The road ahead was long and lonely, but his heart felt strong, knowing he was not truly alone. God was with him every step of the way. That night, he found shelter in a dark cave. The flicker of his small campfire danced on the rough walls as he sang softly, "God, you are my refuge, my safe place." Outside, the stars gleamed like countless promises in the dark sky. Each twinkling light reminded him of Jonathan's words, "The Lord be between you and me." Back in the palace, Jonathan knelt by his window. He looked toward the distant hills, where David hid, and whispered, "Protect him, Lord. Make his heart steady, and his path safe." Many weeks passed. David moved from cave to cave, hiding from King Saul's soldiers. But wherever he went, people welcomed him, for they saw God's light shining in his eyes. Sometimes David grew weary and afraid, but then he remembered his promise to Jonathan, that they would both remain faithful to God and to each other. He picked up his harp and began to sing, "The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear?" His song echoed across the peaceful valley, filling the air with courage. Even as Saul's soldiers searched for him, David trusted God completely. He knew that the same God who helped him defeat Goliath would now help him overcome despair and danger. One night, Jonathan secretly visited David again in the wilderness. They hugged tightly and renewed their promise before the Lord. "You will be king someday," Jonathan said, "and I will stand beside you." It was their final meeting. They parted with hearts full of faith, knowing their friendship would live forever in God's loving care. David sang softly that night, "Blessed be the name of the Lord, who gives me strength and shields my heart." His voice drifted across the hills, a beautiful song of courage and gratitude. Even when they were far apart, their bond stayed strong, a golden thread of faith tying their two hearts together in God's endless love. As the years passed, David never forgot his promise. When Jonathan was gone, he cared for Jonathan's son, Mephibosheth, just as he had sworn before God. Their friendship became a famous legend in Israel, a story told to remind children that real friendship comes from the heart, not from power or pride. Through it all, David learned this important truth: a friend who walks with God is a treasure no crown can ever replace. True friendship is built on love, trust, and faith in God. David and Jonathan's bond teaches us that even in times of danger, God's promises and true friends never fail. A friend loves at all times. Proverbs 5:17 p.m.